What about the duplicate side of things? Because that's the one that really damages trust with customers, right?
So duplicates are almost upstream retry logic, right? So when it happens, a system retries an event without a unique event ID, and what Braze is treats is as a new. Or sometimes two system can fire at the same time. For example, backend, a front end, both sending purchase event to an instance. So Braze doesn't dedupe natively on its own, and that means it will just accept both the events.
Braze is supposed to be real time. So then why is it that your triggers are showing up hours late? And then why is it that the same customer is getting the same message twice? In today's video, we're going to be helping you fix just that so that your Braze setup ends up working the way that it was actually intended. Hi, I'm Risha. I lead the video here at Mavlers, and today I'm joined by Sarthak Banta. He's our CRM strategist and a certified Braze specialist who spends most of his time auditing and fixing broken lifecycle setups. Let's get right into it.
Thanks, Risha. I'm excited for this one.
Awesome. Let's start with the thing that we see in almost every audit. So, teams are convinced that their triggers are set up in real time, but then they're not. And then there's also the issue of duplicate sends, right? So, Sarthak, what is actually going on here?
Honestly, this is one of the most common issue we see, and it usually comes down to two things. First, ingestion isn't actually in real time. If events are coming through hourly ETLs, warehouse syncs, or batch jobs, Braze is already working with stale data and outdated events. So, a quick diagnostic recommendation I'd like to share for any operator watching this is if your cart abandonment message or any other message arrives more than 2-3 minutes late or after the event has occurred, assume that you are not working in real time, your campaigns are not going in real time. This is actually pointing to a pipeline issue, not a Braze issue. And the fix here is to move to streaming ingestion like CDIs and validating payloads before they even reach Braze. And when I say validate, I want all of the operators to concentrate on these things. Are your required fields present? Are the event timestamp correct? Are the array structured properly? You sure there's no null identifiers? Because if bad payloads enters Braze, even downstreams becomes unreliable.
That makes sense. And what about the duplicate side of things? Because that's the one that really damages trust with customers, right?
So duplicates are almost upstream retry logic, right? So when it happens, a system retries an event without a unique event ID, and what Braze is treats is as a new. Or sometimes two system can fire at the same time. For example, backend, a front end, both sending purchase event to an instance. So Braze doesn't dedupe natively on its own, and that means it will just accept both the events. One practical thing I recommend operators can immediately do is compare the count of events coming through Braze currents and that are coming through your warehouse. If the count in warehouse shows 10,000 and in Braze it shows 11,000, you are definitely double firing somewhere, and you can definitely think of where this is happening and try to fix it. We have seen teams duplicate sends significantly just by reconciling that mismatch. And if you're not fixing this, you are risking a big problem, because if you really think about it, what you're literally doing is paying thousands of dollars to Braze for annoying your most engaged customers. And when your high intent users get duplicate messages, you will definitely see a uptake in unsubscribe rates, your opt outs will go down, and of course your long term engagement will drop. So if you really see it as a bigger picture, this isn't just a tech problem. This is also a retention problem.
Right. And I'm sure that that is already uncomfortable for a lot of teams listening. But then, even when the data stream is clean, we're still seeing a lot of these journeys misbehaving, right? So, I want to address identity and re-entry. A lot of the time, what we are seeing is that the same person is appearing under multiple profiles, right? And then they end up going through the same canvas again and again. So, of course, from the outside, it looks as though your brace is glitching, for lack of a better word, right? But then you've told me how that is simply not the case. So, what is actually causing this issue here?
The good news for all of those watching is that if your canvas is looping, it's almost never a brace bug. It's generally identity or a eligibility configuration, which is fixable. So now the two main causes for this can be first anonymous to known merges. So if you are not aggressively merging your device IDs with your emails or external IDs, and if someone logs in, you end up doing is creating multiple profiles for this person for the same human, and this breaks the frequency cap, the suppression logic, and also the journey eligibility, because Braze thinks that these people are different people and they will send them the same message multiple times. A quick check you can run on this is if you search an email and see multiple external IDs attached, you can work in the Braze to with the merge rules and fix this. The second thing that you can do is look at the re-entry. So in a canvas, you have in settings, you can set up your re-entry logics. Team confuse entry criteria with event properties all the time. Remember, any criteria defines who qualifies for the journey and defines why it was triggered. So when those get mixed, you create loops, and re-entry windows are often too loose. We have seen canvases where someone can re-enter within seconds because the same event fires again. And whatever the case is for you, here's a simple guardrail that you can implement. Set a strict re-entry window, sometimes even down to seconds, based on event frequency. Because once identity and re-entry are locked down, a huge percentage of complaints around our Braze is broken will disappear.
Okay, so now that we've got cleaner data and a cleaner identity, there is still this problem that operators run into, which is that events are double firing, or they're arriving late, or even landing together, right? And so suddenly one customer is getting push, email, and SMS all within just a matter of few minutes. So let's talk about the guardrails that we need to be setting up here, right? And how do we prevent all this from happening especially when the upstream data isn't really perfect?
Upstream data is rarely perfect, and you need guardrails inside Braze. So now with our clients, there are three layers we usually implement. First, in Braze, we set up global frequency caps and rate limits. That's a safety net. Second, conditional suppressions between channels. For example, if a push sent successfully, suppress email, or if SMS fires, don't queue push. That alone reduces over messaging dramatically. Third is you can add a short buffer for sensitive events. Think payments, cancellations, subscriptions, etc. Adding even 5-10 seconds delay before triggering allows retries to settle. That tiny buffer can prevent multiple sends. And I understand how operators sometimes worry that delay breaks real time, but customers don't perceive a 5-second delay, but they absolutely notice duplicate messages.
That is such a good point because from the customer's point of view, reliability matters more than speed, right?
Exactly. Once the guardrail are in place, something interesting happens. Messages volume usually drops, but engagement goes up because you're sending fewer, more accurate messages.
All right, so now let's move into decisioning because even when the journeys are technically correct, they still can end up feeling robotic, especially when your default strategy is to set discount offers, right? And a lot of times we're seeing these fallback coupons everywhere. I know that me as a customer also, I know how many brands are actively training me just to wait for the holiday season to get a better deal from them, right? And so, Sarthak, I would love for you to share how our audience can actually make their efforts into personalization actually drive more value instead of them ending up losing their margins.
Yes, the fallback coupons are a classic trap. They can look smart sometimes, but as you said, they train customers to delay purchases. The core issue is input quality. The thing is that that offer or AI decisioning will optimize whatever you feed it. So if your inputs are discounts, of course it will choose discount. So my recommendation here is that we shift towards outcome-based decisioning, meaning mapping intent signals to the right intervention. Here's a framework we use for our clients, and our viewers can also see the same. When someone is exploring, give reassurance. There are social proofs, comparison guidelines, or even FAQs that you can share with your clients. When they are committing, you can give them reward. For example, loyalty points, free shipping unlock, even early access to sale. Think you are 200 points away from a gold status. This purchase will get you there. So this kind of messaging can work. We are offering them discount, but this is on high value purchase. When they complete a purchase, then we are offering a discount, not for making the purchase. The third can be that when they are advocating, we can give them the recognition, like these are your VIP badges, handwritten notes, insider previews, referral perks, right? One example can be you are on the top of the customers this year. Here's an exclusive thank from all of us, and then we can send them a custom message, handwritten message, and maybe a gift from our side, whatever your brand may think is appropriate for your VIP customers. Remember, not every movement needs a coupon. Sometimes reassurance, like availability, reviews, or even guidance, perform better. When teams diversify interventions beyond discounts, revenue impact usually improves and because margins recover.
I love that. Explore, commit, and then advocate. And that's so easy to remember, right? Great. So now I want to touch on something which is a lot more subtle, which is behavior patterns. Because we know even Chintan has made this video on proactive engagement where he talks about churn isn't always the first signal, right? And oftentimes, what we end up seeing teams do is that they wait until users are inactive for weeks before they even react to fixing things, right? But sometimes true signals, real signals, is so much more smaller than that. For instance, broken or inconsistent habits, right? And so we know that catching this earlier can help reduce churn significantly. So then, Sarthak, I'd love for you to speak on that. Like, how do we catch this earlier?
Churn is obvious, but momentum loss is very subtle. But it is just as dangerous because if you think about any habit product, whether that's fitness, finance, learning, right? If someone logs in daily and suddenly stops for 3 days, that's a risk because yes, they haven't churned yet, but the habit is breaking. Now, the good news is that Braze lets you detect that early using session event. So instead of sending generic churn messages later, you have a greater control. You can trigger contextual nudges immediately. And we have done this for our multiple clients, seen their re-engagement improve greatly when they proactively strategize and target broken patterns instead of just reacting to churn. See, the key idea is that momentum loss is its own lifecycle stage. So in today's day and age, you can't afford to wait for the churn. You have to preemptively set the right guardrails.
You're right. All right, so now let's talk testing because everyone wants to experiment, but then the results end up getting messy so quickly. Um, So, like, what's the biggest mistake that you see people do with experimentation when it comes to praise?
Testing too many variables at once. An example could be timing, tone, and channel all changing together. If you're doing this, of course, your team don't know what caused the result, right? See, I have always believed that we need to test one lever at a time, whether that's changing time or tone or channel, not all three at once. And also, metrics should go beyond just tracking clicks. So in our work here, for an instance, we look at time to the next event, retention shifts, revenue per thousand messages, profile enrichments, because these indicate behavior change, not just end reactions. Also, one powerful technique says holdouts. Sometimes the best personalization is choosing not to send. That negative signal is incredibly informative.
I want to end on reporting because I'd be remiss if we don't talk about reporting. Since this is the place where trust either builds within the team or breaks, right? Now we all know how green the dashboards can look like in Braze for everyone involved, but then GA or even Amplitude is going to give us something entirely different. And so, of course, the leadership is getting confused, and then the operators, they are losing their credibility, right? And unfortunately, this is a tale as old as time. So, Sarthak, how do you align measurement with what's happening in reality?
First, accept that tools won't match perfectly. Braze tracks events, GA tracks sessions. They measure different things. The most reliable approach is streaming data into your warehouse using currents and doing cohort analysis there. And the metric themselves need to evolve because clicks are surface signals. What matters more is what I call resonance. Are users acting faster? Are your cohorts retaining longer? Is your revenue per message improving? Are profiles getting richer? Because those indicate system health. And something else you can do is that we also push real-time alerts into Slack or Teams. So if something breaks, operators know within minutes, not delays. That builds internal trust.
This was incredibly helpful. Thank you so much, Sarthak, for joining us. I love how you've shown that a lot of these problems with personalization isn't actually around the content or the creative, right? It is the setup or the system that needs some TLC, right? And as you've shown today, once that system becomes reliable, then of course personalization naturally starts feeling more human instead of feeling tokenized, right? So now for everyone who is watching, if there is a specific problem around personalization in Brace that you are struggling with, drop it in the comments and we'd be happy to create a video that is similar to this to help you fix that. Now, on that note, if this was useful, share it with someone on your team who owns Braze. We've got a lot more videos coming up on Braze, so be sure that you are subscribed to our channel. We're going to be seeing you in the next one.